Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a Baltimore Ravens draft recap. Already done the Falcons and the Cardinals. We're going to try to get to every team by the end of the offseason, so got a lot of time. So today we're talking about the Ravens, and without further ado, let's get into it. So we're using the ESPN draft recap thing. So you can see how they fixed their needs. They got center, cornerback, outside linebacker, which is kind of edge, and same thing as defensive end, so I would call that filled. And they didn't get inside linebacker, so that's the only thing that I'm really a little bit concerned about with this draft. As you can see, they had quite a few picks. But here at the top, you already know Kyle Hamilton falling to them at 14 is a really, really good pick. He had all that. He had top 1 hype at one point. I don't think it was valid, but he's a very good player, and he's going to do a lot of good things in Baltimore. They have pretty good safeties already, but you can't, I don't know, I think best player available is a very good draft strategy, especially when you have a guy that, yeah, they're going to compare him to Derwin James. If you have Derwin James sitting there at 14, I don't care if you need the safety, you're going to pick Derwin James. So I think that's a really good pick, really good value for them. And then they traded Hollywood Brown and a third for the first round pick, which I think they traded up. I think maybe they got 25 from the Cardinals. But that's really good value for Hollywood Brown if they don't have to pay. They could have gotten a receiver here. They could have just picked I don't know. I would have been fine with trading, Hollywood Brown and a third for George Pickens on a cheap deal. But they ended up picking Tyler Linderbaum as George Pickens really fell. And this is, again, really good value. Probably the best center in the class, and it was their number 1 need. And he fits their scheme really well, and it's just going to be a really good pick. I don't know if they moved. I think they moved around because I thought the Cardinals had 23, but I'm not 100% sure. Then in the middle of round 2, they got David Ojabo, and that was really good value for me. I think he's so talented, and I mean he had top 15 hype, maybe top 10 hype at times before he got injured at his pro day. So here, in the 40s or the late 30s, this is great value. And I love David Ojabo so much. He was somebody that I was comfortable with the Chiefs, who are my favorite team, picking in the first round. And I wouldn't have hated that. And I think David Ojabo is such a good talent. And if they can develop him, then this is just going to be a slam dunk pick. Then in the third round, they got another guy who was projected to maybe even go first round. And that's Travis Jones from UConn. He's a nose tackle who's just, you can see he's huge, and a guy that probably, is most likely going to go second round, probably projected early second, and they get him all the way down here in, I guess, the 70s. Just a great pick, and they're just really using best player available to get, all these just great values down the board. Then let's talk about all their 4th round picks. First off, they got Daniel Faalele, huge tackle from Minnesota. I like him. I think he's a pretty good player. He needs to develop a little bit. He's not a crazy athlete, but for being 6'8", 380, he's a pretty good athlete. So he's a good pick. I like the value here in the 4th round. And then they also got in the 4th round Jalen Armour-Davis, who I thought fell a little bit farther than I expected. And again, another developmental guy, but a ton of upside, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. As he was up and down. I talked about this in my cornerback rankings video before the draft. He was up and down, but he just has so much potential, and hopefully his best football is ahead of him. That's what I think everybody's projecting. And then they got Charlie Kolar from Iowa State, big tight end, who's just really a receiver. And yeah, he's just a 6'7", 250 receiver. We'll see how they implement that, as they also got a tight end later, but we'll talk about that too. Then they got a punter from Penn State, Jordan Stout. Not someone I'm familiar with too well, so we'll leave that up to the jury whether that's a good pick or not. But then they got Isaiah Likely, who's another just kind of receiving tight end, like a pure just big receiver. So we'll see how they use him. And Kolar is just, I'm assuming, kind of big slot a lot of the time, and doesn't really fit their usual build, I'd say, for tight ends. They've got those kind of bigger guys that are maybe even fullbacks sometimes. They're going to come in there and play on the line. Obviously, they have Mark Andrews, who's a stud, probably a top 3 tight end in the league. And then these guys hopefully will contribute and just be able to, be big bodies on third downs and outrun any linebackers and, out physical any slot corners. Then they got Marion Williams from Houston, who's kind of, I think he was picked before Marcus Jones. I think he's kind of the other Houston corner for me, but another guy who's probably going to play nickel just like Marcus Jones, and, you know, maybe a little bit high for where everybody has value, but the Ravens like him. They like him. And then with their last pick, they picked up Taylor-Britt from Missouri. He's a running back who's solid. I've seen him play in person, and he's solid. Like, he's not an incredible running back. You're not like, wow, that guy's going to be an incredible pro, but you can recognize that he's one of the better players on the field. He's very good. He's consistent, and I think he's going to be a solid player at the next level. And I think that's a pretty good pick here towards the end of the 6th round. So there's the Ravens draft, and I think I don't know, I think they really killed it. Those top 4 picks with their value are just incredible, and they got down the board. They got guys that they wanted. They got guys that I'm a fan of. I have no problem with this double tight end thing, because obviously they're going to have a role for both of them. They know they have one of the best tight ends in the league, so they're not just trying to, it's not a stupid pick by any means. Same thing like Daniel Falele, like maybe he'll slide in at right tackle. We'll see how that goes. And, you know, maybe they got, you know, a great punter. Maybe they got, you know, cornerback depth, whatever. So very happy with this draft for the Ravens. I thought they got a lot of talent in the building. Let me know what you guys think of it, especially Ravens fans. Let me know how you're feeling after the draft. I assume it's pretty good because, I mean, you guys really killed it. And we'll be back with more of these soon. Also, if you want to see some film rooms of mine, they're out. Christian Watson video is doing pretty well, so if you're interested in seeing my projections for him or George Pickens or Drake London or really any of the top receivers, those videos are out. But thank you for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel. We'd greatly appreciate it because we have a ton of content coming this off season. And let me know what else you'd like to see from the channel. Would very much appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.